Hey, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Money Spaces with me, Kalu Aja. So this is a space that we do every Saturday, 7 p.m. West African time. We talk money, finance, the economy, of course, personal finance. How does it affect you on a personal level? We try to break it down so you can actually use those numbers and all that highfalutin finance terms to just personalize and internalize it for yourself for your own budget, right? Great. So today I had originally planned to talk about Nigeria. You know, it's the birthday of Nigeria, what I call the Incorporation Day of Nigeria today. But I did speak to a gentleman online, and he is a lecturer. And this week I've also been talking about ASU and the strikes that are going on, simply because of what's happening with the Speaker of the House having a meeting with ASU and ASU being a bit indigent on that. So I said it would be a good idea to go back to this. I mean, we talked about ASU. I've been on many spaces on social media talking about ASU. But I've tried to get someone from that community, right, to come in and speak. Just let's lay it all out and let's talk about it maturely, put the facts, the numbers, and ask questions and see really can this be done in a better way. That's essentially what I'm trying to do here, right? So I did get a gentleman that was willing to come in and speak with us. Abubakar, I am sending you invites to speak. I do not know if you're getting them. If you are getting them, simply accept them. Then you will be a speaker, and then we can. There you go. So you've accepted, and you're a speaker. So this is how it's going to go on, guys. Let me give an opening statement, right? Just to lay out the facts, not my facts, just the facts of history, what has happened from, say, 2009, where what ASU had negotiated, and then just up to today. So let me just lay out that factual history, right, of this whole strike thingy. And then we can come back to Abubakar and myself. His name's Abubakar Gomi. He's my guest. He's a PhD holder. Then he can lay out his view from that side. I can lay out my view from this side. And it's not really a debate. We're not going to vote per se. We're trying to really get to solutions, right? But it's just from
Yeah.
different angles. So let me just give you guys the history for those that don't really follow this and are just tuning in for the first time. What is it about? So ASU is a union, and ASU is the academic staff. What's the name? Academic staff union, academic staff of Nigerian universities, right? They represent
Academic Staff Union of Universities.
academic staff union of universities. Thank you, Bakar. See, so they represent the employees. We say the professorial, the senior. Who do they represent? To just be very, very clear,
Sorry?
who do they represent? Do they represent just lecturers, or is it?
All academic staff of universities, right
Okay,
from
great.
graduate assistant up to the apex rank, which is the professorial cadre.
Thank you very much. So they are the union, right? And
Yeah.
ASU has been going on strike for a long time. As a matter of fact, I saw a newspaper clipping. It's from the Sketch newspapers, and I think it's dated 1981, and it's saying
Yeah.
there, yeah, ASU may call off strike. So in 1981, ASU was already on strike. 81. So strikes and ASU are really not. They're not. ASU has always been on strike. What have
Yeah.
the been about? I'm not going to just lay out the history, then we'll come back to you. I'm just going to lay out the
Okay.
history, no opinion, just the history.
Okay. I will
So
meet my mark.
that's fine, yes.
Mm.
So where we are in 2009, because of all the ASU has been going on strike with their employers. Now remember that the employers of the union's members are the universities. It's not the federal government. If you take University of Nigeria would employ a lecturer. So the university is paying the lecturer. The lecturer is an employee of the University of Nigeria, right? In 2009, ASU really got to the stage where they said, we don't trust our employer, or we do not believe our employers can pay us what we are asking for. Hence, we want the state to come into this agreement and guarantee that we're going to get funding. This has always been what they've been asking for. But in 2009 was when they got this huge agreement with the federal, the state government. And in that agreement, right, they came up with what we now call the Consolidated University Academy Salary Structure 2. It has a lot of things in there, auto loans, housing loans, and all that. Their retirement age was increased. So professors now retire at 70. Others can retire at 65. Profs retire at 70. They got a pension equivalent to their yearly salary. The university system got its own PFA, that's Pension Fund Administrator. So we have Nupenco. It's just for the university's pension system. So they got a lot of things in that 2009 agreement. But most importantly, the federal government agreed to transfer the sum of about 1.5 trillion. The number is 1.518 trillion, right, to the university system. The states and the federals would contribute, and it was going to be about 3.6 million per student over a 3-year period from 2009 to 2011. The summary of this is this, guys. The federal government agreed with ASU that we're going to fund the university system and also increase the salary scale and all that of the professors. This was a signed agreement. ASU and the government signed. It's sealed. No debate there, right? In that agreement also, ASU had asked for 25% of the federal budget going forward to be allocated to education. And in that 25%, ASU had asked for 50% to go to tertiary education. Now, what the government did was to convert what you call then the Education Trust Fund. It was converted from just to fund all education in Nigeria, which is the primary, secondary, and tertiary. It was converted to fund only universities. It's now called TET Fund, right? And of course, there were a lot of promises made, but this is the summary of the core of the whole issue. There's an agreement in 2009 that transferred money, and this money is supposed to be transferred more or less, over time, 1.5 trillion in 2009 naira. That wasn't done. The federal government did not meet up to its own part of the agreement. It did not. Hence, you then have all those strikes from 2009 to date, referring back to that 2009 agreement. But curiously, this agreement, this strike this time, ASU has included that they want to also get they have a UTAS, which is like their own, let's just call it like a BVN. So the federal government has what's called the IPPIS. And just to make it simple, it's just like a BVN for federal government employers. So if you are paid by the federal government, you have to be paid via this IPPIS. It's like BVN, right? So the university guys say, listen, this IPPIS does not take into account our own peculiarities. We go for sabbaticals. Sometimes we work for other universities. It's part of our work in this community. Hence, if we go to via IPPIS, you cannot capture the full emolument that is due to every university lecturer. That's their argument. Hence, the government asked them to go come up with a solution, and they came up with what they call UTAS. The government back and forth, it passed validation, didn't pass validation. So right now, what are the demands of ASU right now? It is number one, renegotiate the 2000 agreement I just told you guys about. Don't renegotiate that to 2009 agreement. Number two, they want to cancel IPPIS and introduce their UTAS system, that is their own BVN. Number three, they want to get their promotion arrears paid. And they also have this curious demand. They are saying that there should be no more proliferation of state universities. Guys, this is the facts as it is. I have not put any of my opinion into this fact. I've just given you the facts. Abubakar, have I missed anything or have I misrepresented anything in this factual history that I've just laid out? Is there miss anything out or just the history, not
the the history? I think it's in line.
Okay, so the history is in line.
It's okay, though there are details behind some.
Minor, but
statement you made.
Are the key core things: 2009 agreement, IPPIS, promotion areas. So it's really if we break into two, Abubakar really have two demands from ASU. ASU is asking for welfare and IPPIS because everything
There is also revitalization, which is the core issue.
Sorry?
That revitalization of universities, that is
It's
provision of
all,
infrastructures.
let's just say money to universities and ASU and IPPIS. These are two things that ASU is asking for. They want
Yeah,
more funding and they want IPPIS gone. So these are the two pillars of the ASU strike. Under the pillar for funding, you would have the pay for this, pay for that, fund this, do this, but
yeah,
it's all funding. Then like even if the funding is done, ASU wants IPPIS taken away.
yeah.
Okay, so we're okay on those on the history of it. For those people that are following. Now, this is my
Okay.
opinion. Do you want to go first? Let me give you my opinion first, then you can come back and give your.
Okay.
This is what I think, right? And I only got involved in this because I started to hear this IPPIS thing. In 2000, and I believe, when did we do this IPPIS? 2007 or so. Before 2007, the scam in Nigeria was, if you had a friend in the ministry, they could put your family on the payroll of the federal government, and your family will receive salary, pension by the government. You could get paid 100 times. You could collect pensions for 100 people. The Nigerian government was paying 2.5 trillion, or had a deficit of 2.5 trillion. Thousands of ghost workers. Someone came and said, let's do BVN in quotes into the federal government so we can identify everybody, not identify everybody. This is key about PIS. It attaches you to an organization, which means even if it identifies that I am Kalu, it would attach Kalu to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. So that means that even if you really can't dodge, because not only are you identified, you identify to an organization, you identify to the army. So you can't go from the army and work in the police, which is one thing people are doing. People will work in the army, work in the police, work in civil service. Same person, collect salaries 3 times, collect pensions 3 times. Same person. IPPIS came and that has drastically fallen. There are lots of stories today about fraud in IPPIS. Guys, believe me, before IPPIS came, what you are hearing was child's play. This was nationwide, states, federal. They had pensioners sleeping in Lagos. IPPIS cleaned that up. There is no 100% free system exist in the entire world. None. So ASU is saying, and they are right in saying, that IPPIS does not take into account their peculiarities. My point is, should you then go on a strike for nearly 8 months, keep kids at home because you want the government to remove IPPIS and put in UTAS? ASU strike. When we started this discussion, ASU said they are not going on because IPPIS. Go to my Twitter trend. So many of them came to my trend, abused me, said I was ignorant. They said they were not going on strike because of IPPIS. Okay, the House Speaker had an agreement. They've gone to ASU. They can meet ASU some part of the way in terms of funding, which means that the government is going to maybe pass a bill and pay some of the 2009 funding to ASU. ASU says no. We want you to not only pay, we want to take away the IPPIS. How this head of service has told ASU, we cannot have two payments for one employer, i.e., the federal government cannot pay salaries through two payment systems. This is the issue that I have with ASU. This intransigence and this arrogance to insist that the federal government of Nigeria should take taxpayers' monies and pay salaries. This is federal money, salaries into a software that was developed by a union. Where has it been done before? In the private, in public sector, anywhere in the world. Give me an example where the employee will tell the employer how to pay him. You, you are going to get paid $1,000. I want you to pay me with goats or with cows or with cowries. It doesn't work that way. So, also, like we said, there are two pillars: funding and IPPIS. The federal government has met you on funding, and kids are in school at home for 8 months. Why can ASU not at least allow this government to leave office and then take IPPIS at least to the next government? Abakar, you have the floor, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Kalu. And good evening, House. And for the record, Kalu, I would want to take these items you have itemized. I think by first we go to a union. I've reiterated this many times. ASU as a union is just like any other trade union. It fights for the welfare of its members. Like I've said, members of academic staff union of universities. In a university setting, there are other staffs that are non-teaching, such as the SANU. I know most of you must have heard of them now. The administrative staff, and then technologists and non-academic staff union of universities, SNASU. So, to be fair to ASU, many students on this space here, Twitter, and parents, stakeholders in education always accuse ASU of being selfish. Of course, like I said, the main objective of this union is to fight for its members' welfare. But over the years, like you have said, the issue of strike has been lingering even before it is, because of the inactions of the government. Remember, like I keep saying, the 2009 agreement, we start from it, but there are many things that unfold before 2009 that led to the drafting and signing of the 2009 agreement. So it's just like a milestone to us. Like I said, the 2009 agreement consists of so many components. As at then, IPPIS was not into consideration, but yet, IPPIS was in Nigeria as at 2009. Many parastatals were on IPPIS, but not university system. Universities were on normal, what do they call it, MIS. Then they moved then to GIBMIS platform and subsequently to IPPIS. Before then, I will not want to talk about IPPIS now. I will take it late. The issue of the demands of ASU, like I said, based on our job description, academic staff of universities teach, conduct research, and exercise community service. These are the three tenets upon which the job description of academic staff union of universities were built, or academic staff of universities. So, the issue of welfare, as ASU rightly said, its own objective. Then there is issue of infrastructure. Ordinarily, government should take care of universities' infrastructure because it's their own schools, their own buildings. Ordinarily, a university has its own act that governs its establishment, chaired by the council chairman. There are pro-chancellors for each university, forming a governing council. And then there is the president, who is the visitor of each and every university. He oversees everything. Everything of the council goes to him, and then he approves the decision or disapproves the decision of the council. So what ASU we're saying here is simple. This, we have over the years, there is decay in this system because of neglect by government, ranging from poor funding, inability to take swift decision when it comes to government setting. I don't want to dwell much into it, administrative settings, mismanagement, and a number of them. But people should know that as university, ASU has little or no say regarding the management of a university. A university has a vice chancellor who, of course, is a member of academic staff union of university before becoming vice chancellor. As soon as he's elected, he ceased to be a member for that particular period until when, not by default, but a kind of, because he's answerable to government, he cannot be in ASU and be against other decision of his employer or visitor. Then there is the registrar and all other librarians, them, they are academic staff of universities, and they form bulk of the management team of each university, the bursary and everything. So when people are saying ASU are objecting or are requiring more money into the system, of course, when a university gets funds, it doesn't go to ASU. There is the bursary department of each unit. Not a single member of academic staff has a hand in its distribution or whatever, except the vice chancellor, who as at then is the head of the institution. Until when it came that, yes, there need to be a kind of visitation panel where the visitor himself, he should assign somebody as his representative to go around the universities to see the level of decay that ASU is talking about and the mismanagement of funds. But they have been renegating on this since 2009.
Interrupt you. I don't interrupt you, but I think Nigerians know that the university system is not well funded. I agree with you. I don't think there's any Nigerian that denies that the university system needs funding. We agree with ASU on that. Every Nigerian today wants ASU to get more money. I want ASU to get the 25.
No, I don't want you to put it
I
that
get it.
ASU should get more money. Universities should get more money.
Well, I'm using those words.
ASU, nobody gives ASU a kobo.
I'm using those words interchangeably. The ASU is asking the government. The agreement was that the universities will get the 25%. I'm just using those interchangeably. We get.
Yeah.
The question is this: Is ASU right to insist, and being specific, to insist that IPPIS must happen, even if funding will happen, or kids will stay at home for 8 more months? That's the question.
Okay. So the issue of this, whether, I think it brought us to the issue of whether ASU are on strike, like you outrightly said, are on strike this time around because of IPPIS. I will tell you no. The issue of IPPIS came in because ASU insisted that the 2009 agreement need to be renegotiated because there were timelines set for the agreement since 2009 that after each 4 to 5 years, that agreement should be renegotiated between the government team and then the ASU representative. So the issue with IPPIS now is simple. Like I have said, when IPPIS came into university, when it all started, it was around late in the last quarter of 2019 when a circular was received by universities that each and every member of staff must enroll into IPPIS. And ASU sat with them to see reason. I think there was a meeting with director of IPPIS and some representative of universities union that how will this work because of the peculiarities of universities. And ASU mentioned to them all the peculiarities of universities ranging from article visiting, and then the issue of casual staff and contract staff. Mind you, bulk of universities cleaners, security guards, and casual staffs. And IPPIS have no room to capture this particular group of individuals. And the form.
Question for you: Why can't they capture casual staff? Is it because they are casual and they're not employed?
Yeah.
So
it has to do with pension and other things.
So they are casual.
Yeah.
So
but
why
you know, the argument of ASU is who will pay them. They said university should pay them through their IGR. You see, before IPPIS, universities do pay, the government do pay all particular set of cadre in the university, whether casual, security, or tenure staff or non-teaching staff. They are all on university payroll. You understand? But now IPPIS, to their peculiarities with pension and other things, it's clear to them they cannot enroll casual staff or contract staff. You understand?
The reason is
I don't have answer to this.
I know.
This is their stand.
Let me give you the reason why. Remember that the university community is employed by the university. So if you lecturer in University of
Nigeria, said that? Sorry,
who employs you, sir?
Who employed me?
Who employed
Like
you?
I said, it's
Your
through the
letter,
governing council.
where is it
Through
from?
the governing council of the university.
That's what I'm saying, sir. So
Yeah.
the university community is employed by the university. A
Yeah.
lecturer at the University of Nigeria is employed by the University of Nigeria. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. What happened?
Yes.
What happened in 2009 was that the University of Nigeria, the union, went to the government and said, we want the government to pay our salaries, not the university anymore.
It has been like that for years,
No,
Kalu.
no, sir. I'm looking at the agreement. In 2009,
Yeah.
1.5 trillion was to be transferred from the federal government
Yeah.
to universities to pay university lecturers. This is the thing. So in 2009, lecturers now became federal employees.
I honestly can't comprehend this statement you made
It's
that
a,
1.5 trillion
it's a simple
was transferred to who?
what to the universities. The agreement was signed that in
But
2009 there will
sorry,
be
Kalu, just 1 minute to cut you short. I joined the services of universities in 2008 as a graduate assistant, and then ever since then, I know universities were on this GIFMIS platform of payment through the Ministry of Finance and Office of the Accountant General. That's as far back as 2008. I have seen so many communications in the bursaries where when you are looking for a payment of either promotion arrears or issues that has to do with other payments within the university, it captures that. And auditors do come regularly to universities quarterly basis to audit universities' account through the bursary. So what I know of 1.5 trillion is the amount of key that ASU mentioned in the agreement that the amount of money needed to resuscitate university as at 2009 is to the tune of 1.5 trillion.
you cut me off. So
You understand?
yes, you didn't let me finish my
So,
you
okay, sorry, you can
remember
go ahead.
the agreement said from 2009 till 2011, money is
Yeah,
going to be transferred to fund this liability. It is the
yeah.
funding of this liability that you are speaking of. There's an agreement.
Not salary, it will do infrastructure,
Sir,
ranging from,
I don't want us
I
to go.
have the agreement.
Let's not nitpick. The point I'm making is this: money is going to be transferred to the university system by the
Yeah,
federal government. That's the point I'm making.
yeah.
And the
But not salary.
money
You
will be,
understand? What I want to make clear to you, Kalu, is that even before 2009 agreement, federal government do pay salaries of universities community,
no, but
whether teaching or non-teaching staff. But
remember,
when the 2009 agreement came, it says funding is not enough. Remember, we are not discussing about salary.
we,
Funding regarding
we,
lack of. Should I
Abaka,
wait for you?
we, we
Sorry,
have
it's
we have to
breaking.
speak so that people can follow exactly what we're saying. Because somebody is listening that doesn't know anything we're saying. So that they can follow. Look at the point,
Okay,
you sir. In
okay,
2009, the
yeah,
federal government for the first time, 2009, and the
yeah,
federation, was a federation agreement. The
yeah,
federal and the states agreed jointly. TET fund was converted. You had your new pension commission. Your years of retirement was increased, and the
yeah,
government promised in
yeah,
writing to
yeah.
fund higher education with an amount of money. This
Yeah,
was
that 1.5 trillion.
now, I am making the point to you that once you guys sign that agreement, what it
Yeah.
implies is that the university lecturers became federal employees. Because
No, Kalu, please. You
just
want to?
who
I
pays your
think you.
who pays your
Let me.
salary today, sir?
So should I just respond in 1 minute, please, to make my own stand on this, so that you can decide whether to agree or we just move ahead. You see, what I'm saying is, you are an accountant. I know you know better. I'm not expert in this field of money, but regarding this strike issue, I was in the system when it unfolded. What I'm saying here is that even before 2009 or 2008 or backward, federal government, through its Ministry of Finance or Office of the Accountant General, do pay university their salaries on monthly basis and all other expenditure within the university. Then when ASU went on strike, it was since back as in 2006 that generated the issue of forming the agreement between the ASU, because it was drafted in 2006. Obasanjo then delayed the negotiation and it transferred up to 2009 before they signed it during late Yar'Adua's regime. It was gathered that ASU, a committee was set up between ASU and government team, and a census was made round Nigerian universities. I have the report where they went and with pictures to show as evidence that the level of decay in university, ranging from lack of hostels, inadequate classroom equipment, whatever, and based on UNESCO standard that you were saying, they took African average standard that in total 1.5 trillion is needed to minimize this decay or to take care of the decay and rot in university system. And then again, government decided 1.5 trillion is much for a go. Let's split it into a yearly basis. That is what transferred into 220 billion a year.
There's no disagreement on that. Both agree on that. I'm not disagreeing with that.
That's my point.
I am laying the groundwork to get somewhere, and you are agreeing with me, but you are agreeing in the way I'm saying it. Look at what I'm saying, sir. I am saying that the government, before 2009, there was no signed commitment apart from paying salaries by the federal government to the university system. The federal and the state government signed an agreement to say we are going to give you guys special intervention funding. They signed. I'm looking at the agreement. When the agreement was signed, they were to give you guys monies annually or quarterly or whatever, but they were to give you guys money. The point I am making is this: when the university signed that agreement, you essentially said that you are going to be funded now by the federal government outside the usual funding that goes to your salaries. That's the point I'm making.
Kalu.
Continue, because you are correcting the English, not the concept.
I just want, we have in our midst listeners, and it's better to make it clear. When you said like outside, like I've said, funding right from inception of universities, when you go to Universities Act that governs their establishment, is the federal government that will fund its universities.
What was the
over the years?
What did agreements? What did you sign for then? If you are saying
the agreement, look, Kalu, the agreement was to stop incessant strike,
and that
because over the years, ASU has been going on strikes for.
But I'm agreeing with you. But I'm agreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing that. I'm looking at the
agreement. I want you to take away that point, because you are inferring as if when ASU signed that agreement, it's like they gave way for another. They gave their right to universities by signing that agreement.
I'm not trying to do gotcha. I'm not trying to get anybody. I'm giving information. I'm being very responsible. This is a record.
Go ahead.
So people are going to come back. I'm being very responsible here. The point I am making, sir, is this. In 2009, there was an intervention fund from the federal government. That intervention fund would increase the salaries of university employees. This is the point I'm getting to. When your salaries were increased, the money came from the federal government. This is the point I'm making. It is an intervention fund from the federal government. This means once you are paid by the federal government, you have to do IPPIS. Every federal employee, every federal employee paid by the federal government of Nigeria is under IPPIS. People have sent me text.
Are you sure about this?
And let me just go. NNPC is not on IPPIS. FIR is not on IPPIS. Federal as non-IPPIs, they are not paid by the federal government. You can be a federal agency and not be paid by the federal government. If you are self-funded, then the federal government does not pay your payroll. Hence, you don't need to be on IPPIS if you are self-funded. When the university systems were self-funded, the university spurs, they were not on IPPIS. You just said that in 2008 there was IPPIS, but the universities were not on IPPIS. That is confirmed because you
Yeah.
were self-funding then. But in 2009, the federal government came in with an intervention fund. The agreement is online. I'm not making it up. And then
Yeah.
increase the salaries that go to a university lecturer. We're not debating that point. The point I am making is that that's why there's IPPIS. Innovative IPPIS is good or bad for the system. But I'm making this point for people to follow why you have IPPIS as a mandate. There's no point
Yeah.
to there.
So my concern on this, Kalu, is that, yeah, you said IPPIS, you agree with me that it was there since 2009. But why the wait to capture 2019? That's the first point I'm making. Secondly,
No,
there are other
everybody
government
go
employees
ahead, sir.
that are not on IPPIS. Apart from the ones you mentioned, we have so many parastatals and agencies within. Though, as an accountant, I know you should know better. This, what I'm saying, is
Okay.
just a hearsay based on what people are saying, that so agency is not on IPPIS, like the NNRA. I have somebody there that confirmed to me that the
The what
2019 NRA,
organization? What's that, please?
Nigerian Nuclear Regulatory Agency, I think.
Okay.
You see, the irony of this is that for this NNRA, I have somebody, a relative there. When in 2019, when the whole issue came up with universities to join IPPIS, their agency was included. That's during the COVID period, and they went on strike for not just like they were not paid for, I think, 2 consecutive months, and they arranged later on based on the administrative procedure and other things, and they were paid back their money, and the idea of them joining IPPIS was laid down. They did not join. As at today, they are not on IPPIS. NNRA, I think you can confirm. This is just unofficial statement from somebody from the inside that confirmed this to me. That's number one. Secondly, like I said, when the issue of IPPIS came in, ASU were not opposing IPPIS because of whether IPPIS was introduced now or then, but one, because of these peculiarities that we have mentioned. Secondly, the approach government use. You see, IPPIS, of course, I was in the system when it came up, and they have been shifting grounds regarding universities just to accommodate universities. Issue of visiting, I know when it came, a circular, I read it in university that IPPIS will pay only primary salary, no visitation, no sabbatical. IPPIS do not recognize it. ASU disagree. Reason given then, like I said, these are not like confirmed from IPPIS, but based on within what we were told by our representative, that reason being, a capture the situation in academic staff of universities, it will affect non-teaching staff, it will affect other cadre within the software or platform, because it's just like a co-join platform, and ASU disagree. Later on, after they fought and come back with so many discussions, they said, yes, we agree, only one visitation per individual. You see, why ASU disagree with this is that they made it clear IPPIS doesn't want visitation or sabbatical. IPPIS, universities are not answerable to Accountant General of the Federation. Visitation sabbatical are captured within the Act establishing universities. And these acts were not made by ASU, but the government themselves through their governing council. If you want to change anything within, the visitor has to assent on it, which is the president. The governing council, he will instruct the governing council to make amendments, say, look, from now on, no more visitation. This clause, visitation and sabbatical, is abolished, approved. ASU will have no option than to abide by it, but not a circular from Accountant General. Accountant General treats university as his subordinates just because he pays them salaries. That's the main point why ASU first hit back at AGF. The rule started here. Then, as time goes on, like you have said, each software has its own pros and cons within the universities. And then the issue of accommodating peculiarities came up, and IPPIS said, yes, we can accommodate some of these peculiarities of universities, but not all. That is the debate on IPPIS.
You
And
I don't want to go far, so we lose chain of you. You made 3 points. I just want to clear address. Again, I'm not speaking for
okay,
I'm not speaking for the federal government, right?
okay,
Number one, you said
okay,
why the delay in enrolling universities? The delay to enroll everybody. The military didn't join IPPIS till maybe 5 or so many years ago. The military just joined a few years ago. So not everyone was rolled out. You know, by the system, you have to enroll the schedules and all that. So it's not everyone. It wasn't a rollout 1 year and everyone joined. No, it's a
yeah,
constant rolling out. And when the military joined, the exact same issues you are talking about, there were a lot of issues with the military. They got their ranks wrong. The military peculiarities they travel about. They work for two employers. They could work for Nigerian Army and work for the United Nations on peacekeeping.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I had to come back and do all that. Also, when generals retire, they retire on a totally separate scale. IPPIS had to come back and fix that. It took a lot of work to fix. The point is that the military stayed and kept on complaining. Then IPPIS, which are just civilians, had to understand the military, then change all little to accommodate the peculiarities of the military. You are not more peculiar than a soldier that goes from Nigeria to Somalia. He's a Nigerian working for the United Nations, paid in dollars, officially working for two employees. I don't think anybody has more peculiarities than those guys. Yet they're on IPPS. So that's the first point. Why the delay? Number two, you are
yeah,
saying you called Nigerian NNRC. I will investigate them and I'll come back to Twitter. But remember
okay,
what I said. I was
yeah,
watching the National Assembly defense of MDAs, and I think was it MAMSA, was it NAF?
Nimasa,
The guys that lady, we don't agree with your budget, that your budget looks funny, we don't agree with it. And they advised her, if you don't want to come back here, just go and fund yourself. If you fund yourself, we will take you off the federal payroll. That means you don't have to come to NAS, you don't have to do IPPIS, you have to do anything. And Lee said she talked to her, she said they will come back. This is the point I'm making again.
yeah,
You see many federal workers that are not on IPPIS. They are not funded by the federal government. If I
yeah,
sell something, if I'm Nigerian Port Authority and you pay me and I get IGR and I don't have to go to the budget, then I will not do IPPIS. So somebody will say,
yeah,
that guy is not on IPPIS, but it's federal government. They want us to get no, that's it. We have to go and ask, are you paid your salaries directly from the accountant general? Remember what you said, that the accountant general looks like universities as a subset of the Ministry of Finance. Why? Goes back to the point I made earlier. You are now employees because you have signed to get your money. If I do a contract, the government of Nigeria pays me. I don't do IPPIs because I'm not an employee. But if my contract says I have to hire the government will pay those 3 people. Those 3 people have to be on IPPIS because the Nigerian government is paying them, not me. I'm not paying them. The Nigerian government is paying their payrolls to them. They have to do IPPIS. Let's come to your main point about peculiarities. We can go back and forth on all these peculiarities. Look at the government's own point, and let me just tell you why ASUU is really against this. In the university system, it is allowable and it is part of your scope of work for you to work in the University of Nigeria. But to take a sabbatical or to take, I don't know exactly what you guys call it, but to also go and work in University of Abia State University. So you can have one guy, you can have Kalu work in UNN and also work in University of Abia State University. That is fine. You can work in Nigeria, you can work for 10 employers if your employers agree. That is fine. The problem in Nigeria is that you cannot work, even in America, you cannot work for the same employer and be paid twice. When you guys signed that agreement in 2009, you made one employer, your employer, the federal government. Hence, if I receive salaries from the University of Nigeria, that's one employer, which is not longer UNN, but is the Nigerian government. If the Nigerian government pays me, I cannot go to the University of Abia State that is also paid by the same federal government. I also can't do that because the same Abia State, the same University of Nigeria are both paid by the same employer. The problem is not your peculiarity, sir. The problem is what you guys sign. It's an easy fix. It's an easy fix. Go to the House of Assembly and say, for university workers, give us a waiver that we can work for many federal employees as long as it is not the same named employee with the
Please, Kalu, can I talk lest I forget this point so that I can respond to you properly? Yeah, I like it when you reach this point here that you said it's clear that you cannot work for 2 places that are funded by same employer. That is why universities are more peculiar than any other system. I'm coming. That you mentioned, what do you call it? An army, UN and federal governments are not the same.
Sir, there is nowhere on earth you can work for the same employer and be paid twice.
So let me answer this. Sabbatical and visiting is not peculiar to universities in Nigeria. We are quick to give example with senior clients, USA, what do you call them, UK, and other developed nations that have more developed universities than ours. Go and check, Kalu. There are visiting positions and sabbaticals within.
Sabbaticals, who is paying? In America, my friend works in the University of Washington. He also works in the University of Oregon. Those 2 are not paid by the American government. He goes for sabbaticals. The problem is not the sabbaticals. The problem is that those University of Nigeria and Abia State University are paid by the federal government of Nigeria.
Yes, of course, it's true.
Hence, it's not a problem.
Look, Kalu, we will be debating on and off. Visiting sabbatical, it's clear in the laws establishing universities. Those acts are still...
The issue is not sabbaticals. The issue is who is paying you. When you
government, of course. Who owns the university that you are working?
Who owns Abia State University?
Yes, who owns the 2?
Who owns Abia State University? Abia State. Who owns University of Nigeria? The federal government. Who pays Abia State University? Abia and federal. But who are ASUU members? University of Abia and University of Nigeria. You signed that you want your members to be paid by the federal government. Hence, the federal government goes into the state university and pays their salaries. It goes to the federal and pays their salaries. Hence, that state worker can no longer go to a federal university and work because it's the same employer.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
It has nothing to do with visitation or peculiarities. has to do with who is funding you, because you guys have ignored
So
every other means of
look,
funding.
Kalu, you are
Look at
just
government.
it's becoming more complex here.
How is it?
So you are suggesting whether a staff goes on visiting or sabbatical, he should be paid once.
I did not say that, sir. I haven't suggested that.
Okay.
I've said
So
that
what?
the problem is not the sabbatical or the visitation. The problem is that in Nigeria, one employer is paying for tertiary education.
Yes.
Redeemed University, Covenant University are not on strike because they're not paid by the federal government. Hence, they have no
Yes.
argument. So when they go for sabbaticals, they still go, don't they go? They go now. But
Yeah.
when they are going, they are not working for the same employer. The guy in
Yeah.
Covenant is when he goes to Redeemers, he's not being paid by Covenant. He's being paid by Redeemers. But in
Yeah.
Nigeria, in between Abia and Federal, when the guy in Abia State University goes to University of Nigeria, he's paid by Federal, one employer. This is
Yeah.
why PPIS cannot work for universities. I agree with you. IPPIS cannot work for ASU. It's not
Mm.
designed to work for ASU. I completely agree with you. So what's the
Okay.
solution? The solution is to go to the federal government and say you have to go into IPPIS the same way you went into for the army and tweak it to allow me, one employer, work for Abia State and University of Nigeria. It's a tweak. It's not a
So
strike.
Kalu, you
The
are suggesting ASU should do that, or the federal government
the
should do that.
federal government has to tweak IPPIS. The federal
Okay.
government cannot. It's even illegal to what you guys are suggesting that UTAS, that a union, look at it this way, you are saying me, I'm a contractor. When I come to the federal government, I tell the federal government to calculate my wages with my own system. Where's the audit? Which has been done? Give me one example since beginning of time where it has been done before, that an
Okay.
employee will go to who is to pay him. So I go to the bank, I go to a bank, I tell the bank, I want to collect money, my interest. The bank says your money is now 10K. I just say, no, no, no. According to my own software, you are owing me 1 million. Pay me based on what I have calculated with my own software. How does that work? It can't
Do you
work.
know why? Do you know why it came up? Like I
The
said, Kalu,
federal
there are a number of things
told
behind
you to
this
do it.
UTAS.
We agree. We've said this. We agree. Nobody is attacking. Listen, I agree with UTAS. UTAS is better. IPPIS has a lot of problems. I agree. The point I
Okay.
came to you is this: there is no way the federal government or any employer will accept the payment system of the vendor. Where is the control? It doesn't work.
But
It cannot
Kalu, they should
work.
have asked this question when
So should we
ASU to
strike
bring
the
UTAS that
not?
develop something better.
I
If you
agree
said
with you. Should the
these are
kid?
your peculiarities,
I
you
agree with
see,
you. So
let
should
me just make this one
the
point clear,
because
Kalu.
they
Please,
did not.
sorry. Sorry.
Abaka saying that the kid should stay at home for 8 months because a minister or whoever it is told ASU to go and implement something, and ASU actually came back with a better system. Is that why we're on
No,
strike?
no. The issue why we are on strike, I've mentioned it severally to you
No,
on
the
this
issue
space.
is just thing, sir. It's just
Listen, Kalu, issue of IPPIS here wasn't the main reason why ASU were on strike. To give you a hint, since February 2020, salaries of universities community, whether teaching, non-teaching, are paid via IPPIS. You can confirm this. We
but
are all on IPPIS
your
payroll.
union says IPPIS. I hear you, sir. But
You
your
understand? The issue
IPPIS.
of IPPIS, whether on it or not on it, it's just a propaganda by government
Oh,
to
it's your union
deviate. No,
at
it
your
is just
union's
a
pay.
deviation. Let me speak, Kalu. It's just a deviation from the main point. Whether government agrees with you that today strike will not be called off, because the main core issues were these two, as I have mentioned, like you said, welfare, and then that infrastructure revitalization issue of end academic allowance and renegotiation of the 2009 agreement. Sorry, I will not call it 2009 agreement. It's Memorandum of Action of 2020.
Abakar, let's quote the ASU chairman. If the federal government implements IPPIS, we will call the strike tomorrow. Let them come and sign.
This did you hear it from his mouth or caption of the news?
Watch him say it live to Shehu on Channels TV. If the federal government signs IPPIS, we'll sign for Utah. We'll call the strike tomorrow. Let them come.
But you are familiar with the dealings of ASU.
Please fact check
me. Nobody call off the strike. The branches call off the strike.
No,
and when the branches vote for strike, the demands were clear: revitalization, renegotiation, and academic allowance. Then the issue of UTAS and IPPIS.
So the point I am making to you, sir, is this.
Yeah.
I agree with ASU on funding. I agree with ASU on Utah. I agree with ASU that IPPIS work for the federal universities. I agree. The point I disagree with you is this. ASU cannot, should not. It's wicked to put kids at home because of a mistake that ASU and the government made. That's the point I'm making. The kids have no problem. The Speaker of the House today, let's talk about this week. This week, the Speaker of the House, Bajamia, and the House, the service, and said we are willing to approve funds, but we can't pay those funds or we cannot accept UTAS. It's in the press. Please fact check. And
I heard it.
Insisted on IPPIS. This is, again, I'm not making this up. Fact check me. So ASU is saying that unless they have IPPIS, even if money is given, the strike will continue. This is my... Yeah, laughing. Please, guys, fact check us. We're going to let soon.
So let me say something here, Kalu.
This week, not 2 months ago, this week, head of service meets with ASU and the head of and the Speaker of the House, saying this, the head of service is telling, and I'm quoting, we cannot have two payment systems in the federal government. This is the head of service to ASU. I'm quoting him here. ASU should please understand the situation. We are willing to work with ASU, but they have got to understand the peculiarities of how government works. It's essentially telling you guys that, listen, even if you guys are correct, it just can't work that way. My daughter likes sweet. She likes sweets. She tells me eat. No, I want sweet. I want sweet. Say, okay, I tell her, if you eat your food, I'll give you sweet. Imagine her now telling me, no, give me all the sweets for my 1 year. Give it to me today. I will eat all my sweets for 1 year today. Then I'll eat my... Wait. And she says, oh, because I have peculiarities. I'm a child. I'm a sweet girl. So you must get my... That's not how it works. That's what he's doing. ASU's defense is that federal government tells us to do it. So
no, forget that issue, Kalu. Whether you made it clear that it's a mistake from both sides. Yeah, I agree.
Spent an hour. I didn't want. I'm not in the course. Now I'm going to start to add people. Let me just reset the room, guys. I'm speaking to Abakar Gumi. He's I don't know if you can remember. ASU, he's a lecturer in a university. And we are talking and the strikes and forth about and on this issue. Listen, what's going on? I've laid the point to him, and I've not quoted my own opinion. I've laid the point to him that the government has failed in the past. The government now looks like they want to fund ASU a bit, but ASU is now insisting. This is the ASU. This is what they said. They are insisting on IPPIS. We have agreed IPPIS cannot work for ASU. Please don't come and start telling me IPPIS cannot work for ASU. That ASU is also not getting it that because they are federal employees, they must work with IPPIS. So, guys, I've got Yaks. What's on your mind?
Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to make two clarifications. The first one on First of all, let me introduce myself. I'm a lecturer with Ahmadu Bello University there. So I would like to make two clarifications, one on IPPIS and two why we are on strike. Now, number one, on IPPIS, you have to go back to 2014. It all began in 2014 when the federal government wrote to every vice chancellor of all the universities in Nigeria, all the federal universities in Nigeria, telling them that all staff of these universities are going to be enrolled into IPPIS. Of course, the university informed all of us, and we said, okay, we will join IPPIS without an issue. Then ASU set up a committee to look into IPPIS and ensure that everything has been captured. All our peculiarities are in there. And later on, ASU found out that some of these things are not there. And if you join IPPIS, there's going to be a problem. They wrote to the federal government, to the Accountant General office, and informed him of these peculiarities. IPPIS, the federal government invited us. They sat down and said, okay, we cannot capture all of this. But the solution, according to the federal government, go and develop your own platform. So one thing I want to clear is that ASU did not decide on its own to develop a platform. What they wanted was for the federal government to fix the issues within IPPIS that will capture the peculiarities that are peculiar to ASU. They said, go and develop your own platform. ASU went, then of course, Jonathan lost elections the following year and Buhari came, then everything went down. 3-4 years later, they came again and said, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, fine. Then ASU said, we have a directive, the go ahead from the federal government to develop our own software because of so issue. Then this same Ngige and the same Ministry of Education and the same Accountant General of Federation, the one that is succeeded now, said, okay, go and develop your platform. But before you complete it, come and join IPPIS. So again, I want you to understand approval for ASU to develop its own platform by the federal government. It is not ASU dictating here. The ASU said, no, if we join this platform, we are going to have a slowdown of the academic system or the university system. So just give us some time. Give us 18 months. If we don't finish by after 18 months, then do whatever it is you want to do. Then federal government said, no, join IPIS or forfeit your salaries. Then they stopped our salaries in March 2020. We went on strike. Then there was COVID and what have you. That was why the impact of strike was not felt. We were on strike 6-7 months. We called off the strike and I don't know what they did. I am now on IPPIS, even though I didn't register on IPPIS. They don't have my thumbprint or what have you. And I said, okay, fine, continue developing your platform. And if there wasn't, now ask yourself, if there is no approval, tell me how. Please let me finish. If just give me
maybe you said you had two.
Hello?
What's the other? You said you had 2 points.
Yes, this is the first one. I want to make it clear for everybody listening to this program that ASU did not decide. I've made that point already. ASU did not decide to develop its own platform. It is the federal government itself that gave the approval for the platform to be developed so that it will use it for payment. So the argument of the head of civil service that the government cannot use to payment platforms is wrong because it is his boss, the president, that has given the go ahead. That is why he got the approval for an entity test to be conducted on the platform.
President, wait, which president gave the order? Which president?
Mr. President Muhammadu Buhari, Muhammadu Buhari. That is why he has.
Wait,
sorry.
Sorry, please calm down, sir.
Okay.
You are
okay.
Saying, when was this? When you are saying that Buhari told ASU to go and create a software? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that the federal government, right from 2014, gave us the head to go and develop its own platform.
Who gave the order? Was the minister?
The federal government. There is. Look, I will get you the letter and post hopefully in the next 2 hours, 1 hour or so. There is a letter signed by the Ministry of Finance. I think is the Accountant General. I can't be sure, but the go ahead was given. Hello. Can you hear me?
This is why I'm interrupting you. we know this, sir. I've said it. I said it when I spoke. The federal government told ASU and develop software. I've said it. You are correct.
Okay, fine. Now, what I want
come.
you to understand, sorry, stop interrupting me, please, Kalu. Let me just make my point. Sorry, please. What I'm trying to say is, if you, as a person, Kalu, if you know and believe that the federal government has given the go-ahead for a platform to be developed by ASU, how then do you respect the comments that the head of civil is saying that two platforms cannot be used? If two payment platforms cannot be used, why then did they give the go-ahead for the platform to be developed? This is my argument. Why are you mixing two things? If two systems cannot be used, the federal government will not give the go-ahead. But because it knows they can use... Oh my God. Okay, please, I'm done with that. Let me explain my second point. I'm done with that. My second point is on why ASU is on strike. Can you give me 1 minute to just state that?
Hold up. No. Let's address that point. Let's drill it down.
Okay, let's do it.
You're going to talk. You're going to talk.
Yes.
The government told you on Monday to go out. The government told Friday not to go out. Which order should we follow?
Mr. Kalu, please, you have been using some examples that sorry to say do not make sense. This is a serious issue. You're using sweets and what have you. These are simplistic terms. This is a complicated issue. We have
about ASU. Simple. See, the
our time and resources to
the government. See, the federal government told ASU to go and develop a system. The ASU brought back the system. The same federal government says we don't want to use that system. Is that not what happened? That's what happened. The government told you guys to go develop it.
Okay,
it was tested by.
That is what you. Sorry, Kalu, that is what you think happened. That is not what happened. Let me explain to you what happened. I told you in 2020, Ngige himself, who was the person in charge of these negotiations and what have you, he said, okay, come and join IPPIS. When your UTAS is ready, we will migrate you to UTAS. This was what the government agreed with ASU, and ASU said, no, we need 18 months to develop this and complete it in 1, 2, 3 weeks or 2 months. We cannot. We need 18 months. That was the bone of contention. Kalu, you think the federal... Oh, God.
Yeah. You have to... I'll mute you, sir. Please calm down, sir. Nobody's...
Yes, I think we need to respect other people. They are raising their hands.
Please calm down.
Please, Kalu.
Okay.
Other people are raising their hands.
Please.
Okay, please allow me to go to the second point. I'm done with this one.
Yes, please, you can rest now. Let other people speak.
Just make this point very clearly. I don't want us to repeat ourselves. No, we know the story about federal government telling ASU to develop UTAS. I said it. The UTAS was developed based on the instructions of the federal government. ASU brought it back to the federal government. It was even tested. It was found to be credible. But the same federal government has said they don't want to use it. And I made the point that ASU's excuse that the federal government told them to go and do it. Hence, they must use it. It's how to jump in here, please. Oracle, jump in. Oracle, you have the mic. Go ahead, sir. Please, we have a lot of people here. If Oracle is not, let me get to Sozil. Sozil. Mr. Sozil, Sozil. Please go ahead, sir.
Yes. So there are 3 issues that I want to address, especially from the issues raised by you and Abubakar. So I agree with your opinion that the federal government cannot be using 2 payment methods for different employees. That is very valid.
Same employee.
Then Abubakar was talking about also one of the reasons why ASU is on strike, which was the revitalization and also the poor money that is given to federal institutions And the
No,
third
earn
point
academic
that
allowance.
and the third point that he raised about the visiting professor. If you are to talk about why ASU goes on strike, as to there is no money for infrastructure, and that there's substandard instruments and apparatus in the university system, ASU itself and the university system has a medium to actually check that situation. And that situation is through accreditation. Every lecturer, every student knows that accreditation in most federal universities are done in a very bad way as to window dressing. Instead of them to just agree that these programs or these departments are not up to standard and fail accreditation, instead they go about window dressing, bringing lecturers in and trying to showcase that their program is up to standard, which is not. And then the NUC now gives them 100%, which in reality, they are not up to 100%.
For that. Thank you so much.
And then also about the money given to universities, we know that this money given to universities are small, but what do these principal officers, vice chancellors, chancellors use this money to do? Nobody's asking that question. What do they use the money allocated to them to do?
Only ASU is asking this question.
Why
Only
not go
ASU.
on strike?
I
Why
repeat.
not go on strike against your local vice chancellors? Why
That's
going
why
on
we are on
strike?
strike.
Because the
That's
federal
why we are
government
on strike.
because the
Okay.
federal government allocates budget to federal institutions.
Okay, so
We understand that they are small, is not enough.
I
More should be given. True, we agree. But the one given to these federal institutions, what do they used to do?
okay.
Lately, the
Okay.
University
I
of
will
Benin.
answer this.
No.
Wait first. The University of Benin.
Let me get Abubakar Abdul Hafiz. Go ahead, sir. Abdul Hafiz, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I've been following up with all of the discussions and everything. But seriously, the more you look on ASU's issue as a student, the more you look, the less you see or the less you understand. I think someone commented that. So, and actually, that's the truth. Okay, they will go back and forth, because that's how I've been saying it. They will be going back and forth on national television. So that's how I've been saying it. And also, when you look at this issue of 2009, this thing before, well, I will not say I don't know which one is particularly correct though, but I will not say that. But let's just as by looking at it from different sides. Let's look at student side. Sorry, let's look at federal government side. Let's look at ASU side. Okay, I saw on Vanguard newspaper there where Ngige was where he was explaining that 2009 agreement that is not so, that they sat down, they negotiated it with Jonathan government before. Jonathan promised them that they were not able to pay it. Then they sat down, that they said from the collaboration, wherever, from agreement, wherever, that they can see that is as per agreement stuff, they can sit down again and renegotiate it, which is what they did in 2009, and they renegotiated it to 220 billion naira, and they said Buhari paid 50 billion naira. That's at 2020. That's so normally, so out of 220 billion naira, Buhari paid 50 billion. So I think that's the discussion, but I think that's it from the government side, because that's from Ngige's side. Now, but what the narrate? Okay, go on, sir.
Don't mind. Get to your point.
Yes, sir. But what is actually going on space? What is going on in Nigeria, whatever, is like, okay, 1 trillion, whatever. Like now when Festus Keyamo went on Channels TV, because I owe him a lot. So when I saw the interview, when he went on Channels TV, he said what they were requesting for is 1 trillion plus. Nigeria cannot go on. But he even said it was on maybe salaries, if I could remember correctly. So he said he cannot borrow it. Okay, ASU said it's not on salaries, that is a lie, this is that. Okay. They even wrote it in one of their release that Festus Keyamo lied. So how much is really the money that they are requesting now? Is as if nobody knows. and it's as if it's that 1 trillion. Nobody actually, I don't know, because if you are just looking in front, you are looking back, it's just the money that's being requested.
All right, so lots of questions been asked. Let me get Tobe in, then Abubakar will come back to you, and maybe we can take the question. People ask lots of good questions here. How much is it? What's happened to the money? I also have Yax. Yax has his hands up again. Yax, you speak. I just want to go around the floor. Tobe, let me just have you speak, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I really love what Abubakar said. I love how you calmly discuss the issue. Now, let me just put this point straight. ASUU has got itself in a very difficult situation. And just to put the facts straight, I'm also a lecturer and by default an ASUU member. But then I also have my own different opinion on how things should be run. I stated that over and over again. ASUU as a body have got itself very, very terrible public reputation because we have presented ourselves as a trade union rather than a team of intellectuals. We have no business. I said it again. We have the same thing with the federal government. Absolutely no business. We have the governing council and the committee of vice chancellors to hold responsible for the welfare of the university. Those are our employers. They can now go back to the federal government and do the fighting, not ASUU itself going to the federal government. And that's where we got a very bad rep in the public. And everyone sees us as very terrible, wicked, in the words of Carlo, team of people that have kept students at home. If we look at it from what, I don't know what his name is, the last guy that talked about accreditation, honestly, that is where we got it wrong. Ideally, what we should have, as it is right now, some universities cannot offer some courses. Shut down those departments, shut down those courses. They cannot offer degrees in those courses. Reason being that they don't have the facilities to offer those courses. But what do? We go hire lecturer, we go hire to make it look nice. So that when accreditation team come, they will say, this is very okay. They sort them out and they get 90%, 100% accreditation. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot. I'm just trying to make this very, very clear. We are also not doing things appropriately. It should be that some universities can offer some courses. ABU can offer engineering and agriculture. UNN have the facilities for medicine. If you want to study medicine, go to UNN. You don't need to have all university offering all courses. That's actually how it should be because we don't have the capacity. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the facility to offer these courses. So shut down that department rather than shutting down the whole school. That's ideally how it should be. But we got ourselves a very bad rep by fighting the federal government. Ideally, we should take our fight to the governing council of the university that actually offered us our employment letter. That's just what I want to say.
Thank you. So, Abubakar, you can unmute. Let me just get Yax to speak. I think he wants to make his second point. Then Abubakar, you can speak. So we'll just get Yax to, and you can go ahead. Yax, you got the mic. You want to make a second point, I believe.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I want to make my final point, and it's on why ASUU declared this strike specifically. I think Abubakar made it clear to you that we didn't go on strike because of IPPIS, and I want to say that again, that we are not on strikes of IPPIS. We are on strike because of what happened. Hello, can you hear me?
I'm quoting chairman. Your chairman is saying you're on strike because of IPPIS. So are you saying he's wrong?
It's okay. Let me get to that first. In 2020, after we called off the strike of 2020, the federal government set up a committee to negotiate or to renegotiate its signed deals with ASUU in 2020. I think the person heading the committee is Professor Munzali. So they call the committee the Professor Munzali Committee. Professor Munzali went out, met everyone that he needs to meet. He and his committee. They sat down with Salaries and Wages Commission. They sat down with Office of the Accountant General. They met with ASUU so many times and submitted their report May 2021. The federal government I think they submitted to either the president or the ministry or to the minister of education. The federal government collected the report and promised to implement everything in 2022 budget. I can recall sometime in September or October 2021, ASU met CAN. They met the Supreme Council of Islamic Affairs. They met Abdusalam Al-Bakr, trying to plead with them to intervene so that ASU will not go on strike, because the federal government was trying to pass the budget without including those renegotiated agreements, the report that was submitted in May 2021. But Jabia Mila, the speaker, said they will not pass 2022 unless all those things are captured in the budget. I don't know what happened. The budget was passed in January, I think, without without capturing all those things in the budget. ASU declared a warning strike in February, with the expectation that, okay, with that, maybe the federal government will now sit down and develop a supplementary budget and send to the National Assembly. What did the federal government do? They set up a new committee, again headed by Professor Briggs, to go and sit down on the same report that they have had in May 2021, and they gave them 3 months, something that they can work on in a week if they don't have the capacity to implement what is in that report that they have with them since May 2021. ASU then now said, okay, we are going to increase our strike, roll the strike by another 3 months. That was what took us. Sorry,
Yeah,
please.
No, I agree,
Yeah.
but we have to. I hear you. No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
I'm done.
See,
I'm just okay.
Let me get Abubakar to comment. Abubakar, you've heard what everyone has said. Lots.
Okay, yeah. I
So,
think, Kalu, thank you so much. And honestly, I like it when we are a bit more organized. I think Kalu invited us here, so let him dictate who will talk and who should listen. Like he said from the beginning, I think most of us miss the opening remarks he made. This should be just a discussion, not an opinion, so that at least we'll get to learn from. I think the question raised by Sozil, I think it was rightly captured by the other lecturer. I think I'm seeing Toby by his name. Yeah, I think it's my opinion too. As a union, we tend to ignore those things. There are a number of facilities that are lacking in certain universities, and the window dressing is there. But part of what I just want to add to that is just, people can be selfish at times. When a program is closed, it means maybe to some they will think they are out of job. So they will do anything to maintain that status. But we all know there is that window dressing when it comes to accreditation. And that, notwithstanding, is not peculiar to ASU. The federal government, NUC itself, knows that there are instances that accreditation can, by mere looking, it will not pass accreditation, but it will be accredited with the help of NUC and other team that will come there. So that is answered. I think Toby captured it right there. Then another question is, somebody asked on the issue of why the mismanagement, nobody is asking what is done with the money. That's why I said the agreement is a comprehensive agreement. Part of that agreement, you will always see visitation panel. ASU has been knocking the federal government since 2009, sent visitation team to your universities to checkmate mismanagement. Federal government did not do that until recently. I think in 2021, they sent in visitation team and then they submitted their report. A number of mismanagement and decay, but they failed to release that report. Part of the demand of ASU in this strike is to release the white paper by the visitation panel. Ordinarily, ASU should not be doing this because it's none of their business, as Toby rightly said. But the federal government keep on shying away from its responsibilities. How will ASU does not have the power to punish a single staff within the university because ASU did not employ you, but the federal government can through the universities governing council, but they are not doing the right thing. And the more they don't act, the more detrimental it's becoming to the system as a whole. Remember, I said our job description is not just teaching, research, community service. If the environment is not ethically oriented, is not financially buoyant, you cannot conduct research, you cannot give out anything to your immediate community. That's why ASU is left with no any other option but to take the fight, since those that are in charge of that fight tends to shy away from its own responsibilities. ASU can just uncover the findings, but they cannot punish a vice chancellor. He is not answerable to them. They cannot punish a bursar. They cannot punish a member of the academic staff. So that's my take on this.
Okay, but let me, but Abubakar, I want to be very, very clear to people. Many people are jumping in maybe at the tail end. This is the point. Number one, I agree with ASU's demand for funding. ASU wants 25% to go to education. I agree. I don't agree that they should get 50% of that 25, but I agree they should get their funding. And I think most Nigerians, you'll find every Nigerian would agree with that.
I comment on this.
Go for it.
There is something you are missing. Kalu, like I've said, the 2009 agreement was not just drafted by ASU alone. It was a team. Government representative. In fact, the government representative was the chairman. If I can recall vividly, it was Professor Onisodi. He chaired that committee, though there are a number of ups and doing that within the line through its evolution. So many chairmen were replaced by the federal government. But ASU were just like members of that committee that said they look at UNESCO standard.
No, I
African average standard.
We agree.
The UNESCO standard states that 25% and 50% goes to tertiary education.
No, that's not true.
And check.
That is
you can check on the UNESCO standard.
I posted the figures. UNESCO says 26% to education. It does not say 50% to tertiary. As a matter of fact, UNESCO says if you pay more money to tertiary, it is regressive. This is UNESCO. Yeah. I put on my Twitter feed. UNESCO.
Okay, I agree with you on this. Then secondly, Kalu, sorry, I will just make this one point and then I will allow you. ASU did not compel government that this is what we want. Like I've said, it's a collective bargaining. That 2009 agreement was collectively bargained by all stakeholders, federal government and ASU. So I don't want people to be saying you don't agree with ASU on 50% goes to tertiary education. You don't agree with the whole stakeholders. It's not just, it's a collective bargaining. It took years before that agreement was set and everybody agrees on it. Yeah. Thank you.
I hear you, Baka, but if we have a discussion about ASU and the strike, we won't finish today. I want to situate the discussion to September, the last week of September 2022, because it looks like I've made this argument on Twitter. ASU strike today, you are striking against government on its way out. They have no incentive to resolve the strike. But Jamiala is running, his party is running for presidency. We know he's a Tinubu, and I'm sorry I'm being political. He has interest to resolve this strike. So he has called all ASU and they've said, hey, let's resolve this. He called everyone, they want to get kids back in school and all that. And I would have thought that the strategy for ASU would be, okay, let us get past this. There's a new government will come in place, and not February we'll have a new president, at least to be elected. Then ASU can say, let's start afresh. And even let's start afresh, because ASU has settled to negotiate. That's my own strategy of what I would have done. To keep these kids at home over this, that's number one. Then I'm being specific. When you keep on saying you're not trying to call IPPIS, your chairman says you are. This week, the House Speaker said he's ready to fund, and ASU says they want IPPIS. The head of state she cannot pay with 2. She is saying it is not possible right now, and she's anywhere in the world. It is not possible for a vendor to introduce how he should be paid. So why don't we take a small win? It's a small window. Why don't we take that small window and go to...
Should I respond to this? Just a little bit that I want to say.
Go ahead.
You see, Kalu, I agree with you that the Speaker of the House is committed to ending this strike. But right from Committee of Chancellors, the Minister of Education, up to Speaker, there are a series of intermediaries that mediated, a kind of came in to mediate ASU and federal government. All of them will offer ASU a way out, and ASU will accept. Do you know what is the main issue? They lack mandate on that their promises. They will have to go back to the president, and that's where the whole matter lies down. You understand? This is a good suggestion, and ASU are willing to accept it, but he cannot sign that agreement. That's what he is telling them. He has to go back to the president, and the president, after that, as soon as they said we will get to the president, we will come back to you, they will not come back. We don't know the body language.
Fair point.
What I'm saying here is simple. Offer what you have on table, that this is what we have. Then let's see whether ASU will accept it or not.
Fair point.
Promises.
Fair point.
Nobody will respect promise from this government. I'm sorry to say. The speaker promised to ASU that he will not pass budget. It's the same person in that meeting that was asking director budget that did you capture this? Are you ready to capture this in March 2023? When he was the same person that promised us to look at the level of insensitivity, and he's saying it to that same man that he promised that I will not pass 2022 budget without that. And when he was still asking the director of budget in the midst of everybody.
That doesn't make
so they are not true to their words. It's as simple as that. Put everything on the table. If the president was serious on this, he will call all of them. There is no go and come between them. This is what we will offer. Final. Let's see whether ASU will accept it or not.
Abaka, let me get some guys to speak again, just so you can take notes.
Okay.
Just walk through the room. Don't worry. Let me get Okpe Yek. Oyi Digil. Go ahead, sir. Okpe, you got the mic.
All right, thank you very much. I've been waiting for this.
I do.
All right. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great. I want to first of all appreciate Mr. Kalu for this great opportunity, and I want to appreciate Mr. Abubakar for deep insights and all so far. Number one, there is an African adage that says, where two elephants fight, the grass suffer. In fact, this one is beyond elephant now. I'm now seeing where two planets, planet FG and the planet ASU fight. You can no longer get all the students back to school. Some have lost interest. In fact, of recent, a young lady said something that now that she's engrossed in business, that she may not go back to school again. That's number one. Number two, on the part of lecturer, I read last week about a number of lecturers that have died. Especially, it was specifically talking about lecturers from University of Calabar. That they just pinpoint University of Calabar. The issue is that our ministers, are they also now? I want to add to this. Can ASU also add to their demand that all the children of the appointees of the government, be it at the state, even down to local government, to the federal state, should not also be allowed to school in private university, let alone going abroad? So that if it's just a matter of time, if that can be added to, I think all these demand will be resolved. And our Mr. President, and that's number one. Number two, few months ago, Mr. President, the number one man, the number one man that can make the thing to to happen overnight. He said something. He said he gave 2 weeks to the Minister of Labor and the other minister to resolve the ASUU strike. Does it mean that the Mr. President declaration does not hold water again? Is that not an instance of Mr. President giving an order, a declaration, and the two ministers are still there and nothing is done? I'm tired. What is happening now? Thank you very much.
Oracle, you've got the floor. Please go ahead. Oracle, you've got the floor. The second time I'm adding you, sir. Can you hear me, sir? Oracle. Abakar, did you hear?
Yeah, I heard OPEAC. You see, on the issue of, I agree with you. Everybody.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Oh, okay. There are some things I'm also very happy. I'm one of those who actually tackled making his trend on ASUU issue. I'm not a lecturer. I'm someone who is quite very much interested in the academic system of Nigeria. Like, we are the ones who are bearing the brunt of the whole rotted system. And I will say that just like Iyaz was trying to point out, there are some examples that you are giving that doesn't correlate with the situation. Like the question that you asked, like, how can the vendor be the one to request the method? These are issues it doesn't fall into this issue properly. It doesn't correlate properly for me, because if there is anybody who's supposed to develop, to show capacity, that the money we have been giving you people, that you guys have been doing well, to develop a system for payment for the Nigerian government, supposed to be the Nigerian university system. So yes, ASUU are supposed to be the ones to determine what should the federal government use to pay, whether ASUU or any other or parastatal. So ASUU should determine that. I strongly believe in that. That's one. Then secondly, if it has come to the situation they say there is two payment platform and federal government cannot use two. And I've listened to the chairman also that they have these UTAS in questions have been scrutinized and it has passed the test, passed more than the IPPS. So who then again is then saying that we cannot use two platforms? Why not use the one that is much more reliable? If UTAS is more reliable, what do you still have IPPS doing?
It is illegal. So look. The thing is that when we talk, right, talk within the situation you find yourself. If the federal government says they want to use color A, you cannot say color B is better. They say their law, when money is paid out, they have their way of auditing. Abakar said that the minister, that the Accountant General's payment as just a subhead of some department. That is how they are accounting. If you don't want IPPIS, then you don't take their money. They say if they pay you for salary, you must be paid from IPPIS. That's what they've said. I don't like IPPIS. It is not perfect. I believe UTAS is better. But the person paying you the money has said he wants you to use IPPIS. If Nigeria goes to the World Bank for a loan, and the World Bank says Nigeria must go through JP Morgan Chase, will Nigeria go and argue that GT Bank is better than JP Morgan Chase?
That's not my point, Mr. Carlo. My point is that, see, it is still the question. This example you cited again still do not correlate. Now we're talking about consuming what you produce, and I am saying in planification that we have no other. The federal government has no option of not adopting UTAS. One, the ASUU have said this one has gone through test. It has passed the test, and it passed more than your own.
Yeah, but
which you imported. Sorry. It passed more than the one which was imported. Don't forget. ASU is also clamoring.
You are arguing, you are making this point over and over and over. It's not in debate. I have said
Shall
it.
I say something?
The UTAS is better. I am not debating if
Yeah.
UTAS IPS is better. You are making this point over and over. The point is this: the federal government of Nigeria, the vendor, the owner of the contract, has said if you want me to pay you, you must write a letter and use IPPIS. So what are you arguing about? If you want to change it, get elected, then change it. But to argue,
Can I say something, Kalu? Okay, you see it of the
Sorry,
part of the
Ab- Ab-
point. Oracle, please. I will just add to what you said, just quickly. I will not interrupt you. You see, UTAS was developed by ASU, but it's not that ASU will manage UTAS. They will willingly hand over UTAS to Office of the Accountant General or to look for anywhere place to operate it, whether NUC or any place of their choice. It's not like ASU members will be the ones dictating entries into UTAS. It's just like they have developed software. They will give it to you free of charge. In lieu of IPPIS that the government pays for each individual or staff of the government enrolled, they have to pay certain amount, and they will be paying for subscription fee or consultation fee. I'm not too conversant with it, on yearly or monthly basis. That was the claim, and it runs in billions. So the demands of the chairman was that why will you waste billions in this era that you are complaining of the economy when you can have home on your own without paying a dime?
okay,
That is in addition to what Oracle I
again,
think is saying.
again, I agree with you. Again, I agree with you. The question
Sorry to
no, hold up,
forgo.
hold up. The question is, should we be on strike over the adoption of a software by the Ministry of Finance? It's no longer education. It's no longer about education. It's now about saving money, backward integration, and software integration by the Ministry of Finance. It's no longer ASU. This is the question I'm asking. Is this enough to keep kids in school? We can argue whether it passed the test, if it's better, if it's a waste of money. Those are legitimate arguments to have. But is that education? Should kids be at home whilst we're having this debate? No.
One point, Carlo.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry,
So-
Toby. I wanted to round up my point before Mr. Kalu redress that. So that's one is my point. And Abubakar, I didn't hear all you said. I think your network is becoming poor, but I think you buttressed my point further. And the question of should we be on strike, I will answer again and say yes. Yes, because it is a pressure group. It is not in the job of ASU. The Nigeria belongs to all of us. ASU is a pressure group. It is in the position of the federal government, the government we have elected, then to represent all of us, then to see what the pressure group is bringing to the table. Is it reasonable? If you agree that it's reasonable, what is stopping the federal government from doing the right thing? That is one on that hand. And Tobe actually raised a point that I believe is insurmountable. And I wonder what somebody is studying in petroleum engineering in ABU Zaria. While the Department of Engineering in Efuru does not have significant and enough hands, and we have petroleum engineering in almost every corner of the country. And I've said, if I'm left in my own mediocrity to advise the government on how to go about all this, fund these fundings that you're talking about, especially with the infrastructure. The schools should find their own funding. 25% of the 25% is too much to tertiary education. Tertiary education is not for everybody. 25% of the said 25% is too much for tertiary education. The universities should be autonomous, and that includes finding your own funding. They should find their own funding. If the Department of Pharmaceutical Science could not have partnership with Pfizer or Novartis or any other person to make sure that we have malaria problem and they're providing a solution and they have funding for the research in their faculty, they should close up.
All right, so let me Oracle.
Close the damn fucking department.
Okay.
Hello.
No worries.
Okay.
That's sorry. I apologize for that, guys. Mudara, have you, please? I apologize for that.
Hello, Kalu.
Yes, go ahead, sir. I hear you.
Yes, I think in every institution has an internal generated revenue, if I'm correct. And I think the tertiary institutions, or I would say the VCs, actually do not do anything. They do not pay the staffs, neither do they build infrastructures. So I'm always wondering, what are they using this internal generated revenue for? The federal government paid their salaries. The federal government build infrastructures via TET fund. They sponsor projects. So what are they now using the money for? This is not.
That's a discussion and a half. But I mean, if you go online, you're going to see
their anger. I do not think it's their duty. Like I think someone here said it. It's not ASU's duty to fight this fight. Actually, they are employees. Yes, they are doing it for the future of for the sake of the students and for the future of the.
You're in and out, sir.
I would say they are fighting for their rights, for their selfish interest, and they do not even have the interest of the students at heart. This is alarming. Seriously.
Let me, Abaka, let me just ask.
Can I say this?
Someone, we have ASU staff.
Sorry, Kalu.
ASU members here. I want to ask. Actually, there is actually an internal generated revenue in every institution, right?
No,
what do they use that generated revenue for?
ASU is not the management of the universities. Just so it were clear, ASU does not.
Exactly. Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, Sir Kalu.
So I don't think they can answer that. They are just a union.
I think
right?
if
so
they have any demand, they should submit to the managed university, not to the federal government.
Let me be honest with
you. They are not to fight this fight. The management is to fight the fight. Okay.
So I have seen ASU actually investigate universities and say we're going to look at the IGRs. There was a white paper that was done. They put people to actually look at how the universities spend money. I've seen them do that. ASU is not the enemy here. But I think that what is going on, in my personal opinion, ASU has a good hostage to hold. Students that are at home. ASU knows that if they keep students at home, they can get lots of things done. Someone has said that ASU should go on strike because it's saving money. Why is ASU not on strike? Because we're spending $4 trillion to import PMS. If it's about saving money, the biggest waste in Nigeria today is PMS subsidy. Why are they not on strike for corruption? They're a union of educationalists. To start to go to IPPIS is no longer education. We're going to another water. And if ASU goes down that route, they will get lost in those waters. That's my point. Abdul Mike, you want to say something real quick before I hand over back to Rebecca to make comment? Abdul Hafiz?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I've been following up.
Real quick, sir. Real quick. Make your real direct, sir, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So my point is that I have my own question. So why should ASU president be telling us that 2 years is not small for us? So what does that mean? Like seriously, that is grossly insensitive.
You hear him? I had the ASU's chairman also say that 2 years was not it was okay for students to be on strike as well. I heard him say that.
Okay, I didn't hear that honestly, but that is his own opinion. You don't expect anything that comes from the president that ASU should reason alike. He has his own reason for saying that maybe, or he's been too emotional. I have seen so many comments regarding the president. I think he's been emotional, and I am not seeing his fault here. Honestly, he has been all day up for 7 months. He have honored every other invitation that the federal government sent to him. We have seen how Ngige walked out of a meeting last week. He never did that within this whole 7 months, and he's without salary. So I'm not giving excuses for his comment. I know there are a number of comments that he made on national TVs are a bit emotional. Maybe he's carried away by anger and other things. So I cannot see that honestly. And then on the issue of Mubarak, I think he's a student. Of course, we have been through that road. Many of us as students, we think alike that ASU is the enemy there, because we are considering our time. We don't have quality as a student. We just want to graduate in BSc program, no matter whether you learn something in it or not. You castigate ASU anyhow. But I am happy that Kalu quickly halted that the management of IGR is not in the hand of ASU. We all know that ASU are even insisting on the report of the white paper that the government should investigate universities, because ASU has no power to do that. Then on the issue,
quick,
yeah.
Real quick, I want to, because we're about to round up. We're going to round up in about next maybe 10 minutes or so.
I want to answer the last speaker. I think not last speaker, somebody that said, why should ASU not look into passing bill to compel children of the public officers and politicians to attend public school? We have seen how a legislator last month, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, tried to read that bill, and all his colleagues halted him. They were shouting no. They even prevented him from reading that bill, not to talk of even through first, second reading. To tell you the kind of individuals ASU is dealing with.
True.
They are cunning. They don't want the right thing to be done.
True.
It's as simple as that.
True. I agree with
Can I add to that? Can I add to that real quick, please?
Go ahead.
So this is the reason why we need to get it right in this election. If you're voting for your councillor, for your House of Rep in your constituent, you need to put down the issues on ground. Are you going to send your public institution, be it a public university or the hospitals? If they are not going to, they don't vote for them. We're in an election year. And this is where I expected ASU should use a strong position to direct the consciousness of the electorate on how to vote. I would have actually expected our union to call up these presidents, let them tell the whole Nigeria what are their plans, if not for all institutions, for education alone. What are their plans? At least that will even guide people to move away from being a trade union to a team of intellectuals that can think on its head calmly. Sometimes I really feel for the ASU president each time he goes on interview. Sometimes he says things that are not really in line. This is my own personal opinion. I heard when he said that 2 years is not enough, and I really cringed when I heard that. Sometimes he said things out of emotion, as Abubakar said. But honestly, if we want to get this right, this is the time. Everyone in the PVC, vote for the right people that you think will put their children in the same classroom as you are. That's my final point. Thanks.
Good point. So, Abubakar, like I was just round up to say, I mean, my central theme, just so people are following and listening to me, my central theme is this. Everyone believes ASU should fight for their rights. Everyone believes in higher funds for education. Everyone believes has a signed agreement that gave them funds that the government signed. I think where people start to say this or nothing, it's almost like this is not a negotiation, it's a hostage situation, right? If you don't give me this, I'm going to blow the kid up, right? So we're saying we have how many months? This is October, November, December, January, February. It's 4 months. 4 months. I would plead, and I mean, if anyone's listening, I'm just pleading. I would plead, open up the schools, right? Let these kids come back. Do what you can till February, right? There's going to be a new government in de facto government in February before they are sworn in. When they are sworn in, we can have a brand new negotiation. They might put a guy there that was going to talk to them and say this is what should happen. Because keeping these kids at home now, I don't think anything can happen. These guys are outgoing. They're outgoing. There is no incentive. And if anything they sign today, of course, ASU knows that thing is not worth any whatever it's worth on paper. This is just a plea. There is no point, and there's a court order. That's a perfect quote unquote excuse to call up the strike. There's no argument we're going to make here and say Utah said this, government said go and it doesn't really matter again. Our kids, our future are at home. I think we should call the strike off, move it till the new president. The lawyers have called the 3 presidential candidates. The Lagos State Chamber has called the 3 presidential candidates. Let ASU call the 3 or 4 or 5 leading contenders and ask them directly, what is your plan for education? And let them answer. But call the kids back. And then wait for February or June, as the case may be. Abaka, let me get these last guys to speak. Then I'll give you the last word. Then we can call today. So Chinedu, you've got the mic. I've got Chinedu. I thought we're going to have Bond to speak, and then we're going to have who else hasn't spoken? Yeah. So Chinedu, Lawal, and last 3 of you.
All right, Kalu, I wouldn't like to waste your time. You just concluded what I wanted to say. The timing is wrong. The timing does not work. These people are going out and negotiating now will not make any, there will be no impact. They will not be pushed, or even if they are pushed, they end up signing what they are not committed to. So I think you've made the point. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thanks for keeping it brief. Let's get to I've got Born Origin Nigeria. Born to Win.
Okay. Hello. Good evening, Mr. Kano and everyone here. Okay. Fine. Thank you. I'll go to the point here. The thing here is that I like Mr. Tobe and Abubakar said about ASU channeling their points somehow and emotional. That's at the ASU chairman. I think that's the major case with ASU. But in terms of what they are fighting for, I think ASU is actually fighting for the right thing. Because let's be frank, if we ask ASU to go back to school and continue, sorry to the students that are being affected, ASU goes back to school, the federal government will relax and they won't commit to all these things they are agreeing. Okay, for example, I was finishing school when the strike that happened in 2013 happened for 6 months. We know what happened. And since then, several other strikes has happened. And I can perceive what ASU is fighting for. For example, I'm a pharmacist, for example, and I can relate with what some of these ASU members are fighting for. In the sense that sometimes, for example, I studied pharmacy, so I know what it means to bring the laboratory funding and all of that. I know most of my lecturers that have to use their money to ensure that students do their practical sometimes. And you can imagine being a lecturer, the amount of money you are being paid, and you are committing it to all of those things. It's not easy on the part of ASU. The student management is messing up funding, and ASU is taking the hit, and government is being complacent. So I think ASU is actually fighting a good cause. If only they can channel it properly and then get the attention of the populace to support them, because government is meant to fight for the people and not as I just want to talk about it. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's get Lawal to end and we'll get Abubakar to end it for us. Lawal Adewale, please go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I don't see the issue with, I think both ASU and federal government are not being sincere, and that is where the issue lies. They've been striking over and over again. Government will promise them, they will not fulfill. I think it's because there's no agreement. Why? For instance, I'm a postgraduate student from the University of Ibadan, and I paid 10,000 naira as bench fee in order for them to be able to supply me some of the materials. But the school collects the money. ASU does not fight. I don't have the materials. I have to go outside and do practicals elsewhere. So I think the issue is complex. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I think the issue goes beyond what we see, because ASU should be able to go in line with what the management, because that, to my own perspective, I think the management are supposed to be negotiating with the federal government. And ASU sorry, I don't know how I'm going to put this. So there's a lot of research work. I believe that ASU too are right in some cases, but in some cases they are not being sincere. Take for instance, we also know that Nigeria presently has revenue and expenditure problem, and I believe their demand is exorbitant. They should be realistic with what they are demanding. So I yield the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone that has spoken.
I know. Sorry to intrude. I have a thing or two to say. How are something so is not as corrupt as IPs? How are we sure it is free from all corruptions as they have claimed?
Well, they say it was tested. Let me get Abubakar. He's going to make. They said in test.
I think, Kalu, you can answer this better. You are an accountant.
Yes.
It passed the NIDA. I think NIDA is the body in charge of certifying all other electronic softwares and other things in the country, and they tested UTAS, U3PS, and IPPIS, and they scored UTAS best. So it's not ASU that tested it; it's the government agency in charge. So I think it's nothing much to say on that. I think the result
you got the flaws
speak for itself. Okay, so in all, I think, like you said, we are rounding up. Thank you, Kalu, for organizing this space. I think the little we have discussed here, people have heard their view, and there are a number of take-home from so many listeners and speakers. And then the issue of in-house rearrangement in ASU, I assure you it's ongoing. We have ASU, it's a union of intellectuals, and you don't expect them to reason alike. There is evolution. It keeps on changing. We are not saying ASU is perfect, but they are fighting the right cause, as we have highlighted. There are faults. Maybe somebody can attribute to ASU or a member or outside, but we all agree there is room for improvement in the day-to-day affairs, and we cannot rule out some of the milestones ASU achieved. Even the government at some point, they have tried. We have seen the revitalization funds being released in the tune of 220 at some point in around 2010 and in 2014 by Jonathan-led administration, and it goes a long way in resuscitating university. When you look at so many buildings in universities, you will see the need assessment of 2014, and it's visible to tell you that funding is necessary. And so much more has been said. We are not here to argue. It's a matter of opinion, and people are entitled to reason. Students will be emotional. They are affected, but I'm telling you, as ASU members, we are more affected with strike than any other stakeholder. If you are a student, majority of our members are also students. Their studies are cut short with strike. If you are a parent, you have children at home. ASU members too are parents. They have children at universities also studying. But one thing that is unique to ASU is we are the only ones without salaries to strike. All other individuals or stakeholders have one or two, but we have three common to us at a time. So forgive the chairman sometimes, like you said, he is being too emotional. He is carried away by sometimes so much stress, attending meetings here and there, forth and back. Governments have not been sincere. So sometimes the rage and anger in him tells you that even when he sat in the meeting, you look at his face, you know he's not at his best. But he's a strong man. We thank him. He is the commander we look into at these trying times. And then, Kalu, I don't know whether you have something to say. It's really nice hearing from members here, or this space has been a really interactive one, especially contribution from Toby and other members. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I think in a nutshell, I think I would say ASU should rather than going on strikes.
So,
I
thank you
know.
guys. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Abaka, for the speech. I think we just want to have the space to have you guys from that sector. You guys should come up and just tell us your own side. Maybe we're being too hard on you, and just to hear your own side. I think most of what I've heard here is what I've read and what I've understood is the position of ASU and the rest. I think it's the same I've heard. I hope that my plea is taken and someone can hear what I'm saying. I'm not here to say ASU is right, federal government is wrong, government is wrong, and all that. When you see me talking on Twitter and I'm being very, very hard, I'm trying to provoke action. And the only constituency I have that I'm fighting for are the students. I don't want the students to be at home. And there's a reason for this. Main reason, I'm a financial guy. There is no economy that has grown that did not invest in education. Check it out. Any economy is in the world, anyone that the GDP per capita is rising, it follows an expenditure in education also rises. So there's a direct correlation between education and GDP per capita. That's just the truth. And even apart from that, we are uncles, we are brothers, we are fathers, we pay for school fees. We don't want to see kids just wasting away at home. So it's an appeal to ASU. You are right, but please call these kids back and let's wait for them. It's just February. Call them back. Call them back. Let's wait for February and let's see if we can get a good or better government in February that will listen and perhaps pass a new bill. There has to be an ASU bill. You can't be doing strikes and agreements. You have got to pass an ASU bill that encapsulates all what you're requesting for into a bill that is voted for so that going forward, there's no back and forth on that anymore, right? So that's what I just think should happen, please. So thank you so much, guys, for being here. Mr. Abdul, thank you so much for short notice. Abakar, thanks so much for short notice agreeing to be here. I appreciate you. All the guys have spoken as well and contributed. Thanks so much. Guys, it's happy birthday, Nigeria. Go out and enjoy your holiday.
Thank you, Kalu.
Yeah, it's not perfect, but we have a chance to make it perfect. Be deliberate in 2023. Connect the life you want to see with the ballot in your hand. Be deliberate in 2023. Don't complain for 4 years. Be deliberate on that day and vote right. Thank you, guys. You guys have a great day and bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Kalu. Bye-bye, everyone.
You're welcome.